Alrighty, so earlier this year, we got our 5th Evil Dead film, Evil Dead Rise, releasing in theaters. I've already seen that movie. I've seen all 5 Evil Dead movies. This past week, I binged all of the rest of the movies I've had to see. And today, I'm going to give you a ranking of all 5 Evil Dead films that I have seen. With that said, make sure to join me down in the comment section below and tell me what is your ranking of this franchise. This original trilogy is very beloved. Every single one of these movies is basically like Scream. People say that they love these movies. For me, it's not really that case. I do love a lot of these movies. I love a lot of things that they do with it. Thing is, Scream is special to me, so you really got to understand. Anyways, I want to know, what is your ranking of all these movies down below. Mine is definitely going to be controversial, I know. And with that said, I'm going to start off this controversial list with number 5, which is The Evil Dead, the original film. And this is the one for me that feels like it's very put off from the rest of the franchise. For number 2, this one up there, it decides to remake the entire franchise to where it undoes everything that number 1 did. That makes it to where number 1 isn't even relevant anymore. And I'm glad number 2 did that because it makes it into the more campy vibe. This movie isn't necessarily all that campy. It's horror for horror. It's blood. It's guts. It's crazy. And in a way, I'm not saying that I hate this movie. I'm not saying that I don't like it. I still give this movie a positive score. I would give every movie a positive score in this franchise. The thing is, this one has a lot of blood and guts, and when we get into the final act and blood's coming out of the walls and off the ceiling and off the light bulbs, I thought all that was crazy. And I thought with all the demonic stuff, with all the blood stuff, I thought all that was absolutely incredible, and I loved it, and that really worked. But it didn't really service anything to the plot. And number 2, it really works. I mean, all the blood and guts, you're cutting off your arm, you're doing all of that. In this one, it's just blood's coming off the walls because there's demons. It feels like it's just entertaining. Yes, it's blood and guts for blood and guts. That's what this movie is. And in a way, it's not bad. It's entertaining, that's for sure. But even with the second one, it completely undoes everything that this film set up, and the second movie does what the original premise was way better, to where in the rest of the franchise, I don't think I've ever said that I was bored with a single one of those movies. With this one, it's only 80 minutes, and I felt it kind of being like a little bit of a drag here and there. Entertaining? Yes, I was entertained for 80 minutes. It just felt like a bit of a drag, and the rest of the franchise, I was like, oh wow, that got done quick. This movie, I felt like, alright, we're still on this moment, still going, and there's just so many flaws with this film, which I can understand. It's one of Raimi's early movies, and it still works, it's still unique, it's still gory, and it's still fun. The thing is, I would just much rather watch every single other movie on this list than rewatch this one. All the rest of those movies are this movie elevated. And that, not to say that this is a bad movie for the 10th time, it's just the worst out of this franchise. We're getting to number 4. Yeah, I did switch out this with Ash from the franchise. And yeah, that's really cool. I like that figure. We're just gonna pause there. Number 4, I got Evil Dead 2013. The remake is 2/3 the second best film in this franchise. It's not as good as my number 1, but it's still amazing, and it does everything that one of these movies should do. It's got the look-away scenes, it's got the blood, it's got the guts, it's got the demons, it's got the cool scares, it's got all of that, to where in certain parts in the movie I was like, oh my god, they're going that route. I cannot look, I can look, and that is what elevates this film above a lot of them. It was terrifying, it was creepy, and it was amazing. And also, putting it inside from, oh, it's some kids going on vacation and then demons come. It's completely different because you get in the context to where you care for these characters. You really care for these characters. These characters are, this girl is a girl who is trying to get off drugs, which is, in a lot of ways, could be very relatable. And then this terrible thing happens to them, and all these friends and this family is just falling apart because of that. And it's got one of the more emotional arcs in this franchise, instead of just some friends and all the friends die, and it could be very emotional. And it's gory, it's creepy, it's got all the great stuff from an Evil Dead movie, but it elevates it in that way. The reason that this is this low is it feels like a piece of it feels like a fan fiction. It feels like someone wrote a fan fiction. Instead of following the original trilogy, which sets all these rules for that, it kind of disrespects that by creating all these other different kinds of rules and what happens. And at one point, I just grew sick of it. At the final scene of the film, I was like, this is breaking the whole franchise continuity. And if you know me, I hate it. Hate it when something breaks the entire franchise continuity. It drives me nuts. And so right here, this broke the franchise continuity by, instead of when you get possessed, you die. The first person to get possessed literally comes back alive by being buried and then stabbed in the chest with an electrical volt, and then they come back alive. And it just creates a whole different kind of continuity that makes it feel so far-fetched from the rest of the franchise. And 2/3 of a great movie. It was so perfect. I was ready to give this number 1. And then it just kind of, in the third act, just kind of loses me. Especially like the final fight scene. Blood is raining from the skies, quite literally. Her hand is stuck behind a car and she just pulls it off like it was nothing. It's just so far-fetched and just kind of loses me to where, like I said, in the original trilogy, you set these rules, and then you go in this movie and you completely break them. You set a whole different kind of continuity that just threatens the entire franchise, and I felt back and I was like, this is fan fiction. This is fan fiction. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Fede Alvarez as a director. I think his direction is great, but I mean, this is a franchise that many people love. And you just kind of break the rules of that was already set in the franchise. And bringing back the character, it was a cool twist to have the original possessed trying to kill the demons. That was a cool twist, but it breaks every single continuity that you have already set in the rest of the franchise. And that is just the big problem with this movie. Like I said, 2/3 a fantastic film. I still really love this film. The 2/3 of this movie, I might even rewatch this movie because it was just so great. In the end, I just felt myself empty, and I really wish I didn't. I really wish there was more, because this could have been number 1. Third place, we got that one right there, The Army of Darkness. And coming down here and saying this is easily the most fun movie in this entire franchise. We start out with seeing Ash, and he's just this character that is just quirky and has puns, and it's just basically this big cartoon character, to where in Evil Dead 2, he really didn't have any lines. It was mainly just a physical performance by Bruce Campbell, and here he's got the puns, the quirkiness, his interactions with everybody, and that is so great. And even when he's by himself in the physical comedy, is the best it's ever been in this franchise. I mean, when the mini of his are running around, that is just absolutely hilarious and absolutely fun, and I could not get enough of it. I was laughing, I was genuinely crying with laughter because it was just so fun and so entertaining. There's so many entertaining aspects about this movie, and that's what this is, entertaining. I mean, the whole climax of it is army of skeletons and demons come to fight humans. Like, that is eventful and entertaining and action-packed, and it's entertaining for what it is. The thing is, it's only 80 minutes. It's far too short. Like, I left this movie and I was like, yeah, it definitely was missing something. I didn't leave as disappointed as I did with Evil Dead 2013. I really did love this movie. At the end of it, I just walked away from it and I was like, yeah, it was 80 minutes. It's easily rewatchable, but you go get the book, you have the book, you get attacked, then the big battle. It's basically one note. It's one note, predictable story throughout the whole thing. It feels like it could have done some more things. And in a way, I like 80-minute movies because I could just sit down and watch it at night. And I enjoyed myself watching that. It just would have been just a little bit better if we had put some more meat on the bones. That's what it felt like. And that's what pushed my second place above this one. These two could change at any time. I might even rewatch these eventually back to back. And my opinions might change with each of them. Speaking of that, obviously, second place is going to Evil Dead 2. It's a very fun movie. The first film I was a bit disappointed by the movie. I didn't love this franchise. I was nervous to see what the rest of the franchise would behold. And then, eventually, it turns into this movie, which, at first, I was like, this is stupid. I mean, it completely underdoes everything that the first film did. And I found myself like, that is a very bad move. That is an extremely bad move. I do not like that move. And eventually after that, the movie turned into a more fun version of the original Evil Dead. I mean, even Bruce Campbell's performance wasn't all serious. It was all goofy and funny and quirky, and it really works in his physical performance, whether he's cutting off his own hand or screaming at the demons. It's all pretty funny, and Bruce Campbell is a great actor and is great in these roles, and I think it really works for him and really works for Raimi. On top of that, the creature designs are cool. It's scary. They all look great. The demon stuff is really cool. There's the same amount of gore as there is in the first one, but it's all there for a purpose, and it all really works. It felt like this was a movie, and I think it might even be shorter than Army of Darkness, and it feels like it's got a lot of meat on its bones. If it was any longer, I would have gotten bored. If it was any shorter, it would have needed some more meat. This is the perfect time for a movie like this. It's a fun, goofy, campy, enjoyable watch to where I sat down on my couch and I walked away from this movie. I was like, that was really fun. I mean, this movie even ended off on a cliffhanger, which sets up the next movie so excellently. I mean, Evil Dead 2 just really works in everything that it does, and it's a fun movie. And that's what you need, is you need to have a fun movie. Sam Raimi crafts a fun movie. Sure, the effects are not good, but it was cool seeing how they use stop motion to move the demons around. That was really neat to see. It's just a really neat and fun, campy movie. That's what we need sometimes. But it's not something that I would rather, like, rewatch over my number one. It's not something that is excellent filmmaking. It's something that's fun, and it's a fun movie, and that's fine, and that's why it's at number 2. Number 1 is excellent filmmaking at its finest. It's Evil Dead Rise. I love this movie. I sat down and watched it not knowing what to expect. I only saw the first film before this one, and I sat back and I was like, I'm not gonna like this, am I? And even, like, the first act was kind of slow getting there. It was slow, and I sat back and I was like, okay, let's go. Let's pick up the pace, guys. Let's get there. Come on. And the moment that happens, I even appreciate how slow that the first act was. Because instead of being, like, rushing into it like all the originals were, it gets in here and it's like, yeah, we set up these characters and we set up this mother who's a leader of this family, and it's just kind of emotional in that kind of way. This mother is the leader of this family, and she gets possessed, and you know she's not coming back. So instantly, this family's in peril, because she died, and you know she's gonna come back, and you know she's gonna kill people. I sat back, I was like, nothing's gonna happen to the kids, but the kids, almost all of the kids die. You get this pearl, you get this sense of danger that really works, and on top of that, the makeup is incredible. The cinematography is great. There's a scene where you're looking through a little peephole and you see the mother just get up there and kill a bunch of people. That scene was awesome. The cinematography is great. The makeup, like I said, is great. The gore is great. It takes on kind of a slasher vibe to where everyone in this hotel dies and you get to see her kill them. There's scenes where you want to look away, but you can't look away in the best ways possible. But the best thing about this is it is a terrifying movie. This movie is genuinely terrifying. I was genuinely scared while watching this movie, not only because of the makeup, but because the performances were done so well. Alyssa Sutherland is so good in this movie. Everybody's so good in this movie. You feel the danger, you feel the sense of peril, you feel the weight of everything, you feel what this book was, and this is exactly what I want to come more from the rest of the Evil Dead franchise. Because in my eyes, this is a perfect movie that really works, and definitely at least needs to get a sequel. In fact, I think for the sequel, they should bring back my boy Ash here, which I'm going to flex my action figure on again. I mean, this is a really cool figure. I mean, it's got, if it would stay, it's got all the cool hands. If it would stay, maybe. If it would stay, good. There we go. It's got all the cool hands and everything. Anyways, that was my ranking of the 5 Evil Dead films. I want to know down below in your in the comment section, what is your ranking of the Evil Dead films? Once I watch Ash vs. the Evil Dead, I'm gonna do like a ranking of the seasons, and then I'm gonna do another one of these videos, including Ash vs. the Evil Dead as a whole show. And then tomorrow I'm seeing Across the Spider-Verse. I am so hyped for that movie. I've heard it is a masterpiece, and if it is, then I think I'm gonna have a new favorite movie of the year. I genuinely think I'm going to have a new favorite movie of the year. But anyways, thank you guys for clicking on this video. Stay tuned for an Across the Spider-Verse review and a Spider-Man ranking. Still got some more Fast and Furious videos coming. But anyways, thank you for clicking on this video. And with that said, subscribe to join the Nerd Army. Peace.